welcome. The coronavirus pandemic has affected all facets of our lives, not just our health, and it has spread to all parts of the globe. The rapid spread of the new variant offers clues as to how the SARS-CoV-2 is adapting and how the pandemic will play out over the next several months. The WHO has said that the highly mutated Omicron variant of COVID-19 could change the course of the pandemic. Now, due to the previous lockdown and work-from-home cultures, people's lifestyles are already severely disrupted. Many people have become physically inactive and are developing irregular eating patterns, which also leads to unhealthier lifestyles and the aggravation of lifestyle-related diseases. And so a multi-sectoral approach promoting healthier diets and increasing physical activity is required to help in slowing down this diabetic epidemic and heart diseases that we're seeing in India. So let's take a look at how we can beat diabetes myths and facts that will impact and help a large number of people to prevent or control metabolic disorders. And today on the show we have with us experts to share with you advice on just how to do that and how we can lead a healthier life. Joining us is Dr. Nupur Wani. She's an MBBS diabetes chief diabetologist at Diacare Diabetes Specialties Clinic in Ranchi, and we also have Dr. Rakesh Jindal, an MD DM of FICC Director and Senior Interventional Cardiologist at the Kota Heart Institute and the General Hospital in Kota. Thank you so much, both of you, for your time. First, Dr. Jindal, to you. Some people who had been infected with the Delta variant are still experiencing long COVID effects. How severe could the Omicron infection be for such people?
Yeah, this is the Omicron virus, is the variant of coronavirus, and it has been diagnosed in in South Africa on 24th of November. And if we look at the data, how it is severe, if we compare with Delta virus, definitely the data is coming from US, coming from the UK. Definitely it is much less severe compared to the Delta virus. If we look for data, like the number of people going to the hospital emergency room, they are much less. There is at least 70% dropout in the emergency room. And similarly, the number of patients they are admitting in the hospital, there are at least less than 50% of the, compared to the Delta variant, 50% of people are going to be admitted in the hospital. And those patients who are admitting in the hospital, after admission, the 50% compared to the Delta variant, 50% again dropping down into the ICU. And similarly, the ventilation rate in the patient who is admitted in ICU is also 20% compared to the Delta variant patients. So let us see the severity. Definitely comparing with the Delta virus is much less, and that indicates this virus is definitely less severe. The severity is related to the virus per se, or because of the high immunity in the society, because of the vaccination, or maybe because of some COVID appropriate behavior what we are taking and what people are aware of it. So it's a really good news for all of us. The third wave is coming with the Omicron virus in the India after US or UK. So definitely we are much having a low impact in the severity of the disease or mortality, like data what we are getting from the India also. The admission rate was 20 to 25%. Now it is coming down to 5 to 10%. The data are coming from the India. So I think it's a good thing. Let us hope the severity remains same or may further come down also.
All right, so that's the good news. The Omicron variant is not severe, but it is highly transmissible. So, Dr. Wani, under these circumstances, what extra care should one take? That is, especially people with comorbidities, what extra care should they take?
Okay, so those who have comorbidities like diabetes or hypertension, actually, if the parameters are well controlled, they are actually not at a high risk of getting infected. But once infected, the route to recovery, the time taken to recover increases, and the treatment is very, very complicated. So I think the best way to avoid infections is the three basic things which we have been following. First is your vaccination. A complete vaccination is a must. Both the doses of the vaccination is a must. And now booster dose has come, and I think booster dose should be taken. Frontline workers, they are taking, and those above 60 are also advised to take the booster dose. So first is vaccination. The second thing which we say is avoid going to crowded places, maintain good ventilation in your homes, practice hand washing, and of course wearing a mask. This is the first thing. It's not just wearing a mask, putting a mask on your face, it's about covering your nose. The mask should cover your nose and should fit snugly over your lower part of the face. That is, the nose and the mouth should be covered by a good 3-layered mask. So the three things which are the most important are wearing a mask, avoid crowded places, and social distancing with good ventilation and hand hygiene at home, and of course maintaining your blood parameters, that is your blood sugar levels, your blood pressure should be under good control. So these things, if a person with comorbidities they take care of, then their chances of first getting infected and then the recovery will be a little bit better.
All right, so these are the new 10 commandments of 2022. Dr. Jindal, what are some of the symptoms of the Omicron variant of COVID-19? And are these symptoms the same for people who have diabetes too, or is there something different?
Yeah, it is almost the same symptoms what we used to have a Delta virus, except some of the symptoms like those like loss of taste or loss of smell. They are not there with this Omicron virus infection. But most of the symptoms are almost same what we have with the Delta variant, like occurrence of fever. Fever, like incubation period is like 1 or 2 days lesser than compared to the Delta virus. But the symptoms are almost same, like upper respiratory tract infection, like fever. Fever usually low grade and maybe up to 100, 101 degree Fahrenheit, or may last for 2 to 3 days. So the severe, definitely it is a less severe. That's why the infective is a more infective, but the symptoms are less because most of the symptoms are related to URI, like a common cold type of symptoms, fever, cough, and running nose, or like symptoms. And usually the symptoms related to lower respiratory tract is much less, like developing a dyspnea, SpO2 fall, or these symptoms are much less severe. So these patients having infection with the Omicron variant virus, definitely these patients are almost asymptomatic or maybe having very mild symptoms, and they don't even notice because they have a Omicron virus infection, and sometimes they just get checked there by RT-PCR test, and they found positive and remain isolated for for 7 to 10 days or whatever. So definitely this is a milder form of symptoms, and symptoms are almost similar. So we can say this pandemic area, a patient who has got fever and with a cough, he should take unless it's proven, it should be taken like in this pandemic area as a corona infection that could be with the Omicron virus. Naturally, most of these patients are this Omicron virus because we come to know that this virus is Omicron or not by the time patient is almost become asymptomatic and get rid of this infection. So symptoms are almost same, except some of the symptoms they are particularly with the Delta virus, like loss of taste and loss of smell. Others are same.
All right, Dr. Vani, I want to touch upon the issue of exercise. We know how important that is for people with diabetes to control their blood sugar. What does one do at times like the times that we're living in, where there are lockdowns, weekend curfews, things like that, and of course people are nervous about going out? What would you advise?
A very, very nice question and very pertinent to these days. See, exercise, in relation to diabetes, I would say there are three pillars to good control of diabetes blood glucose levels. First is the good diet at the correct time. Second, of course, is the moderate, regular exercise. I lay stress upon the word regular exercise. And the third, of course, is regular medication. Now, if even one pillar falls, that is, I compare this to the wickets of a cricket. If the ball hits even a single wicket, the player goes back to the pavilion. So even if one of these pillars is left out, then we fail to get a good glycemic control. So exercise is of course a must, and I would say moderate regular exercise is a must. Now this exercise need not be done early in the morning, or not necessarily a walk. It can depend on patient to patient. Some people like to dance for some time. This is also a good exercise which coordinates the mind and the body. Some would like to go for yoga. So if there is a lockdown, we can either walk on our terraces, or we can go in for yoga, cycling at home, the home cycling. So any form of exercise which stimulates the blood flow in us, and it should be regular and not in spurts, I think. So a regular form of any exercise which suits oneself. Say walking is not a must. A morning walk, this is what our patients say, that I cannot go for morning walk. It's so chill outside. Yes, it is very chilly, and not necessary that you go in for a morning walk. Or someone who works till 3 a.m. in the night. You journalists work till 3 a.m. in the night. Not necessary you go for a morning walk. You can go in for yoga at your suitable time, but that should be regular. So that is it. And all these three together, exercise, diet, and medicines, will definitely give a good stabilized blood glucose level. So that is the basic punchline: a regular exercise of moderate intensity.
Moderate intensity. Well, talking about that, Dr. Jindal, of late, we've been hearing over the past year actually of people between the age of 30 to 40 who were having heart attacks, sudden heart attacks, serious heart problems. What is the main cause of a steep increase in heart problems among people in this age, Dr. Jindal?
Yeah, it's one word I can say. It's all because of the bad lifestyles what we are having now. If you talk about like 25 years back, the incidence of heart attacks, in particular this age between 25 to 35 years of age, we used to see these patients, very, very few patients, only once in a month or once in a week patients, and these patients used to be asked for like what is the cause of heart attack in such type of such low age group patients, and we used to discuss this must be something cause, something different, maybe some congenital artery anomaly or something else. But nowadays, like in Kota, in my ICU, we used to see 1 or 2 patients every week at the age of 25 to 35 years of age. Very, very common. The incidence and the in this lower age group is increasing because of our bad healthy bad lifestyles, because the physical activity is going down. We are getting more and more obese. Our children are very busy in their studies. Their screen time is very high. Either they are busy in the studies, or they are watching TVs, and they are playing with the mobiles. The physical activity has gone down. And the bad diet, because of bad diet and decreased physical activity, the weight is putting up. They are getting more and more obese. So all these things are going to precipitate heart attacks. And we, we Indians are already prone to develop cardiovascular disease. We are genetically prone for this. And apart from this,
All right. All right. So you're saying it's a sedentary lifestyle, but Dr. Vani, I just want to press a little more on this. Let me go in for a short break and come back and ask you about the fact that a lot of these stories that we've heard, reports we've heard of people getting heart attacks in their 40s have been people who were reportedly very fit and who had heart attacks reportedly after working out. So I want to ask you about that. Let's go in for a short break and we can do that on the other side. Welcome back. Dr. Vani, I just asked you about the reports that we're hearing of people increasingly in the age of 30 to 40 who have been getting heart attacks but reportedly very fit.
See, as what Dr. Jindal just said, we Indians are different in every field, and our genotype is very, very different. We get diabetic at an early age when compared to the Western people. We are more prone to these heart diseases. Our genetic makeup is different. So I think a balance between everything and is very, very necessary, and a good lifestyle which our forefathers followed. I mean, that is not very practical now, but in whatever job we have, stress is one of the most important factors. You know, everybody wants quick success, quick money, overnight name and fame, and everyone is ready to go in to do anything for it. Overnight fame, one cannot get fame, name and money overnight. One has to work slowly. So stress is one of the very important things. Of course, smoking is there, which people consider to be very fashionable, and I think that one has to leave smoking. One has to take care of all the parameters and have a regular checkup with the doctor whether they are very fit. So and doing a severe intensive exercise is not advisable for anyone. As I said, doing moderate but regular exercise is the key to fitness. Good food along with less of stress. Now, this exercise is not again only going to the gym or walking. It can be any form of exercise which slightly stimulates your body and also gives peace to your mind. So peace of mind is very, very important. Stress, decrease the stress, and do not go in for overnight quick things. I mean, one has to be very patient in any field. So these things are very, very important. The basic things which our previous generation has been following, we have somehow missed it. And these are all things, sedentary lifestyle. We prefer going by bike, by using a bike than using a bicycle. So these certain things, our children, when you ask them to go ride a bicycle, they say scooty is more fashionable, I think. So there are things, and junk food is, of course, there with the newer generation. Right from KG, we give stress to our children. So somewhere we are also lacking good marks. So anything instant is not good, I think. So well, that's it.
New Year is a time for reflection and introspection. So hopefully everybody can make some good resolutions now. But Dr. Jindal, staying with the heart attacks, people survive a first heart attack, but what can one do to reduce the chance of a second one?
Yeah, it's very common to have second heart attack after the first attack. Usually the common cause of heart attack is a multifactorial disease. So what we used to treat, we have to treat a patient of heart attack. You should not have heart attack. We have to take the help of some medicines, like we used to give aspirin, beta blockers, atorvastatin or lipid lowering agents, and some like ramipril or ACE inhibitors. We used to give all these medicines to a patient who had heart attack. And we have to look for secondary prophylaxis on these patients, so patients should not have another heart attack. For that, we have to look for his risk factors, because we know it's not even a single cause for this developing heart attack. So we used to have multiple risk factors in a patient, and we have to find out the risk factors. And the risk factors are two types. One is a modifiable risk factor and another is a non-modifiable risk factors. The modifiable risk factors, we can control, we can treat them, and we can, reverse the atherosclerosis by which these patients used to have heart attacks. And second, those are the non-modifiable risk factors, like we are genetically inherent, like age or sex or particular age of patient. We cannot, modify these patients. But modifiable risk factors are definitely, like, we have to look for most common cause for developing heart attacks are like those patients who has got high blood sugar, like they have diabetes, they have high blood pressure, they have high cholesterol in their blood, or they have, like, they used to have smokes. So for that we have to control these factors. If patient who has got high sugar, we have to control it by the help of exercise, diet, or whatever medicines. Similarly, blood pressure. And apart from this, we have to ask the patient to have a healthy lifestyle. That is a very important for patients. He has to have increased physical activity according to his heart status. And we ask the patient to look for diet also. He should have the diet that should be a very friendly to the heart. Not like whatever people used to say, like डाइट कोलेस्ट्रॉल खाने से कुछ नहीं होता है, हार्ट अटैक नहीं होता है. वी शुड नॉट लिसन दोज थिंग्स. वी हैव टू गो साइंटिफिकली. सो द पर्सन हु हैज गॉट हार्ट अटैक, काइंडली ही शुड take advice from the cardiologist, and
well, that's why we have shows like this and doctors like you on our show.
So we should not take opinion of social media, or we should not look into those things. You will, like, coming in the so many factors, and very well all this social media and other things, they affect lot to the patient behavior and treatment in the future. So I definitely urge any patient who really had heart attack, he should listen to his doctor. I think he will not harm him. He will definitely look his cause, look his root cause. He will try to solve the problems. He will treat him regularly, and not only one time. He has to follow these patients regularly to the doctor. He should listen whatever he had a problem, any relation, any side effect to the medicine, or anything, whatever, like if something he got wrong in the body, he should listen to doctor. So he should choose a one doctor. And definitely this is the second heart attack is a preventable disease. It can be prevented. More than 99% of patients can be prevented to get rid of these heart problems. So listen to a doctor and treat accordingly. Look for their risk factors, and do well. I think we'll come out with a flying no problem at all.
So listen to a doctor. Don't not Dr. Google. Don't self-prescribe. But one thing that you have to do, Dr. Vani, is self-monitor. I think self-monitoring at least is very important for blood glucose. That's essential for people with diabetes to maintain controls over their sugar levels, right? Their use, importance and frequency are different in type 1 and type 2. Could you please explain what those differences are?
Okay, now this is a very, very important question, and especially during the COVID times when there was a lockdown. But let me first explain the difference between type 1 and type 2 diabetes. I think most of our patients know about it in these days. Type 1 diabetes is mostly, I say mostly, not only, mostly seen in children in whom the capacity to produce insulin, that is the glucose controlling hormone, is lost. So here the beta cells are not working anymore. Type 2 diabetes is mostly seen in adults, but nowadays it is also seen in adolescents very commonly. And here it is not only the insulin production which is lost, but it is also other factors like the insulin resistance is there, which leads to the increase in blood glucose level. Now, to manage this, we have talked about the 3 pillars of good blood sugar, blood glucose control. But then again, how do we know how well we are doing? And the importance of self-monitoring of blood glucose by a glucometer, I would prefer saying SMBG as a short form. So the importance of this SMBG was specifically seen during the lockdown period in the COVID times last year. Now,
Oh, unfortunately, we're losing the line there, but we are also out. Okay, Dr. Vani, I think we still have you. Let me quickly go back to you to wind up that answer.
Okay, so SMBG I think is more so important in those people who are taking insulin, so as to adjust the dose of their insulin once they have been taught by the doctor how to adjust the dose of the of their insulin after looking at the blood glucose levels, and how will they get to know about the glucose level 3 times a day if they do not have a glucometer. So self-monitoring of blood glucose is like empowering a patient to take care of their own health, and this is very, very important in these days, whether it is in type 1. Type 1, it is very important because the fear of hypoglycemia is always there. Children are insulin dependent and hypoglycemias can be fatal. In type 2 diabetics, those who are on insulin, again, self-monitoring is very, very important. And I think all the diabetics, whether they are type 1 or type 2, insulin dependent or not, should have a glucometer, and they should take the help of self-monitoring of blood glucose to get a better control of their glycemic status. Self-monitoring is very, very important.
All right. Dr. Jindal, Dr. Vani, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your service. This has been so informative and extremely helpful, I'm sure, for all of our viewers. Thank you again. Bye-bye.